Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman protect us both, the teacher and the disciple. May he nourish us both. May we both work together with great energy. May our studies be vigorous and fruitful. May we not hate or criticize each other. Om, peace, peace, peace. We are continuing with the study of the Raja Yoga, the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. We finished the first 6 sutras of the last chapter, Kaivalyapada, 4th chapter. Now, Patanjali is starting the topic or taking up the topic of getting freedom from bondage of karma. Now, the word karma means action, the effects of action, and also effects for which actions in our past lives were the causes. It's a big, wide range of meaning for this word karma. It's there. And again, karma is not just physical work. It includes thoughts, words, and deeds. So all these bring about different effects, which could be good, bad, or a mixture of both. That's what Patanjali is saying in the 7th sutra. Karma shukla krishnam yoginas trivitha itaresham. Works are neither black nor white for the yogis, but for others they are threefold: black, white, and mixed. For the yogi, the actions are neither black nor white, but for other people, ordinary people like us, the results of the actions are either black, it's good, sorry, black, evil, bad, white, good, or a mixture of both. When we do any action, the effects come. To reap, the results come. And to reap the results, we do more action. And then it gives more results. And then we do more action. So it goes on and on. And every time the results come and we work out those results, we are adding one more link to the chain that is binding us. Because most ordinary people perform action with some desire, to fulfill some desire. So desire-oriented actions always bring bondage because it goes on, the chain increases. That's why they say the results for ordinary people are good, bad, or mixed. Now the question may ask, we may have the doubt, can't a virtuous person get only good results instead of to avoid the bad results or mixed results and do only good things, get only good results? Ordinarily, in the world of action, it doesn't happen because all actions are mixed with a little bit of evil. The Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, Sarvarambhai doshena dhumena agnivritaha. All undertakings are certainly enveloped by some evil, as fire by smoke. However much you try, you are extremely careful not to do any evil, not to harm anybody, still a little bit of evil may happen. You are not killing anybody, harming anybody, you are breathing, you are drinking water. So many germs are there, the bacteria is there, they are destroyed. You cannot do any completely good action without any evil effects. It's impossible, almost impossible. And Sri Ramakrishna says, however much you are careful, If you live in a room full of soot, you will get a bit of stain, a soot on your dress, on your clothes, however much careful you are. So evil will happen a little bit. And whatever action of mine, whether I'm doing, seeing, identifying, reacting, I receive that act or the result of act as the impression, samskaras. And every impression is like a cloud covering the mind stuff. That covering can be like a white cloud, can be dark cloud, or mixed cloud. So they color the subconscious mind. And we see that what we consciously collect as the impressions, they color the subconscious mind, and then the subconscious mind unconsciously guides us, controls us. So what we collect consciously end up controlling us unconsciously. We don't even realize that we are being controlled by those impressions. We call it as my nature. That's the nature. And everybody has to follow their nature. We cannot avoid the nature. So Gita says, even a wise man acts in accordance with his nature. So these three types of karma cloud the subconscious mind and affect us, ordinary people, but not the yogi. Because the yogi has got the mind under his or her control, calm, serene, and just perform action because it is to be done. There is no attachment to the results of action. There is no sense that I am doing, the ego is not there. So the yogi does not get any results from the action. The results are neutral, neither black nor white nor mixed. So Swamiji says, when the yogi has attained perfection, his actions and the karma produced by those actions do not bind him because he did not desire them. There is no attachment to that, no desire for that. It's not a desire-oriented action. He is just doing because it is to be done. It's the right thing to do, he does, without any attachment. He just works on. He wants to do good and he does good, but does not care for the result and it will not come to him. In the Gita again, Sri Krishna says, the perfected yogi or the perfected person has to perform action for the welfare of the world, Loka Sangraham, not for any particular individual results or any personal result, just for the welfare of the world. Again, quoting from the 4th chapter of the Gita, without attachment to fruits of action, ever satisfied and free from calculation, he is verily doing nothing, even though engaged in actions. The yogi is engaged in action, doing action all the time, but without attachment to fruits of action, ever satisfied and free from calculation. So even though the person is doing action, he's not, the results doesn't come. So that's why Krishna says he verily does nothing. The results are neutral. Whereas the ordinary person asserts the ego. I am doing this. For yogi, there's no I feeling there. The higher power is working through him. That's his attitude. He does unselfish, and doing this unselfish work without attachment is the way to exhaust the karma that we accumulated. When there is no sense of attachment, no sense of agency, no sense of ego, then the karma will have no effect on the person. That's why we have to have a lot of detachment. That's the one thing in the Gita, here in the Yoga Sutra, say in general, I can say in spiritual life, detachment, non-attachment is the one thing they are stressing again and again. Don't be attached, don't be attached. We need a detachment, we need alertness, we have to be alert to find out how our mind is working, and also strong willpower. Well, the yogi ceases to add any new impressions to by his actions. But what about the accumulated stock of impressions which are already there and which need to be worked out? What happened to them? This exhaustion of these accumulated impressions can be a very long, drawn-out process, extending through many lives. But the advanced yogi can fast forward this process through or by creating artificial minds and artificial bodies. We saw that in the earlier sutra in this chapter, that the yogi, through his power, highly advanced yogis, can create separate body and mind and work out the accumulated karma quickly. Some pure yogis do that. And Bhagavad Gita says all accumulated impressions, what is called sanchita karmas, would be destroyed when self-knowledge, knowledge of one's true nature is attained. All the karmas will be destroyed. Sri Krishna says, Jnanagni dagdha karmani bhasmasat kurite tatha. Then the work gets burned up by the fire of knowledge. As like a heap of firewood, the whole thing, all the accumulated karma gets burned up by the fire of knowledge. Then we come to the next sutra. Tadastat vivaganugunanam eva abhivyakti vasananam. From these threefold works are manifested in each state, only those desires which are fitting to that state alone. Now we said about three types of work: good, bad, mixture. Among these, only those works or only those desires which are fitting to that particular state or particular life is manifested. The others are held in abeyance for the time being. They don't come out. We need to remember that it is desire and attachment that drives ordinary person to continuous action. And these effects of these actions leave impression which bind us. And there are innumerable desires connected with huge stockpile of impressions. Though so many desires are there, but only a limited number of desires can be satisfied in any particular life, or we can say incarnation, because the same soul is taking different bodies. But in a particular body, during that particular lifespan, only a small amount of desires can be fulfilled. Which are they? Are there in any, who decides which desires are going to be fulfilled? Patanjali says that only those desires fitting to that particular state is manifested in any particular state. In any particular life, only because depending upon the environment, the parents, the circumstances, everything is decide. Only those few desires will be manifested in that particular life. In our daily life, we can see, not about exactly, but a similar situation we can see. Suppose a situation arises and a person becomes angry. Now only those impressions or samskaras of anger are manifested. All other samskaras the person had, good thoughts, good deeds, which we heard, learned, practiced, all through, they're all pushed to the background. Only the samskaras or impressions of anger comes forward. In a larger sense, it's what's happening in the life. So from this, we can say that we cannot judge a person by just looking at one action, a single action. We often judge people by a single action or a single situation. We cannot, because only one particular impression is put forward in that single act or single situation. There is much more to that person. Swamiji gives a very interesting explanation for this. Suppose I have made three kinds of karma: good, bad, and mixed. And suppose I die and become a god in heaven. The desires in a god body are not the same as the desire in a human body. The god body neither eats nor drinks. What becomes of my past unworked karmas, which produce as their effect the desire to eat and drink? In a god body, there is no eating and drinking as we do in human body. So what about the desire to eat and drink, which I had in a human body, which I had, those impressions are accumulated? The answer is that desires can only manifest themselves in proper environments. If the environment is not proper, the desires won't manifest. Only those desires will come out for which the environment is fitted. The rest will remain stored up. In this life, we have many godly desires, many human desires, many animal desires. If I take a god body, only the good desires will come up, because for them, the environments are suitable. And if I take an animal body, only animal desires will come up, and the good desires will wait. What does this show? That by means of environment, we can check these desires. Only that karma which is suited to and fitted for the environments will come out. This shows that the power of environment is a great check to control even karma itself. Environment has got a great influence. So the impressions from the subconscious level come to the conscious level given the suitable environment and force the person to act according to that environment. So if the environment is negative, we need to change the environment. Otherwise, if the person is mentally weak, the person will be drawn further down by the environment. See, we see that in our daily situations. Say drug addicts or petty criminals are thrown into the jail, and what happens? In the jail, during the period in jail, they accumulate more bad tendencies, bad habits, and they become worse, like criminals. But they may become better human beings if given good opportunities to acquire positive qualities, to train themselves as become as responsible citizens. We can change it. That's why we have to. There's a rehabilitation is better than punishing. Now we come to the next sutra, sutra number 9. Jati desha kala vyavahitanam api anandaryam smriti samskaryo rega rupatvat. There is consecutiveness in desires, even though separated by species, space, and time, there being identification of memory and impressions. There is identification of memory and impressions, so there is consecutiveness, this continuity in desires. Even though they are separated by, the different lives are separated by species, time, and space. Different, one life you are in one species, in another life, the next life may be different species, one animal, one human being, and difference in space, difference in time, but still there is continuity in memory. That's what Patanjali is saying. It may happen that one person does some action, but because there is necessary conditions are not there, so he is unable to work out the karma, the impressions coming out from that action. Then what happens? They had to be worked out in another life, in another body, in a future life. We cannot remember the causes created in a previous life or lives. Why? What is the cause? Or what for I am going through this particular event? Am I good or bad? Pleasurable or painful? We can't remember, we don't know, we can't remember. So often, if something bad happens, we complain. Oh, this is undeserved. I didn't do anything bad in my life. In this life, I have never done anything wrong. Why should I suffer? So this is undeserved suffering. We complain. But when good comes, we don't say, oh, how did I come this undeserved good luck? We never say that. We say our complaint comes only when bad things happen. Then we complain, oh, this is undeserved. I didn't deserve this. I deserve better. But when good comes, we just take it for granted. That is also because of the past impressions. So this sutra explains this dilemma. Why should one suffer for something done in a previous life? The impressions or samskaras of all the experiences that we have gone through in innumerable lives are all stored up in the subconscious mind. So there is continuity in memory. But in any particular life, in any particular body, only those impressions and therefore those desires compatible to that particular body, that particular environment will be remembered. We don't remember the other ones, not the rest. The rest we don't remember. So there is no, we cannot say there's any cause for undeserved suffering. No, we don't, just because we don't remember, it's not undeserved. When we realize this, that it's only a particular desires are remembered, then we realize that our misery or suffering is due to the direct result of our evil deeds or past actions, mistakes. Again, to go back to Swamiji's explanation, experiences becoming fine become impressions. Impressions revivified become memory. See it step by step, he's saying. Experiences becoming finer becomes impression, and impressions, when revivified, becomes memory. The word memory here includes unconscious coordination of past experiences, reduced to impressions with present conscious action. Memory also includes the coordination of past experiences, which have become impressions with present actions. In each body, the group of impressions acquired in a similar body only becomes the cause of action in that body. Only those impressions received in a similar body. So suppose a person in a previous life was an animal. Now, in this human body, that person won't be remembering that impressions which received in the animal body. Only in some previous life, he or she had a human body, only those impressions will be remembered in this human body. And those impressions and desires will be manifesting. The experiences of a dissimilar body are held in abeyance. Each body acts as if it were a descendant of a series of bodies of that species only. Thus, consecutiveness of desire is not to be broken. We have the story of Jadabharata in the Mahabharata. Bharata was a king, and as he was getting older, he left the kingdom, went to the forest to do spiritual practices. One day, when he was having his bath in the river, he saw the baby, newborn baby of a deer being carried by in the current. So he felt sorry for it, picked it up, brought it to the ashrama, and cared for it, and it grew there. Slowly, Bharata became attached to the deer. When the deer strays away from the ashrama, he'll be wondering, where did it go? Hope no tiger or lion has caught it, killed it. Instead of spending his time, keeping his mind on higher things, spending more and more, his mind is going towards the deer. And in the last moment of his death, of the life, when he was about to die, his thought was, where did the deer go? So they say, in the next life, he was born as a deer. In the Gita, Shri Krishna says, whatever is the thought in your, with whatever thought you are leaving the body, you will be born with that body. That impressions will decide your next life. So he was born as a deer. And then, because of, as we saying, there's continuity of memory, he didn't forget his past life, the spiritual practices he did. But so he didn't get involved in the ordinary life of the other deers. He stayed away from them. And again, the next life was born as a human being. Now, again in the human being, he got a chance to bring out all those past impressions, past memories. And we see that in that human birth, he, in order not to get involved with the worldly life, he acted as a deaf, dumb person. Highly evolved, realized soul, but acted as a deaf, dumb person without not talking. So the parents thought he's a dumb boy, can't speak, can't hear. So all these impressions were kept dormant in the deer life. And they again manifested in the human body. They are not destroyed. No, none of them is destroyed. They come up again in the next life. So that's what Patanjali is saying. Those separated by species, different species, animal, human, time, space, but still there is continuity of the mind, continuity of impressions, continuity of desires. But at that particular moment, we act only in a particular way according to the need and the body. That shows that we have got control. We have got the power to control the body and mind, to manifest and do things the way we want. The choice is with us. Now we come to the next sutra, Sutra 10. Tasam anaditvam chashisho nityatvat. Thirst for happiness being eternal, desires are without beginning. Thirst for happiness is eternal. However, the desire for happiness, the thirst for happiness is eternal, is going on and on, beginningless. So desires are without beginning. According to Hindu philosophy, creation and dissolution are beginningless and endless. We say it's a cyclic process going on and on. Any experience that we go through has got some desire behind as its cause. And that cause has got an experience. And if you trace the line back, when was the first experience? When was the first experience? We cannot say. Swami Vivekananda says, there was no beginning of experience, as each fresh experience is built upon tendency generated by past experience. Therefore, desire is without beginning. Desire is without beginning. And every soul or jiva wants to live forever. As soon as one body perishes, it assumes another body. Because the desire to live is in all beings. Does any being say, oh, it doesn't matter, I'll die? No, everybody wants to live. It's a natural feeling of all beings with consciousness to try to avoid death. And that means absence of that life. And we want to continue living. So one body is finished, we take up another body. The body is formed in a particular place and time. with a particular constitution due to circumstances or the result of karma. And the desires that manifest in that body correspond to this desire to live, correspond to these circumstances and all the other place, time, all that. Only those desires can manifest. And this desire to live, present in all beings with consciousness, is manifested or shown as attraction and repulsion. We are attracted to some things, we are repulsed by other things. This attraction and repulsion are present from the early stages of evolution. We cannot say this is only in the human beings. No. Even minerals, vegetables, animals, all have this attraction and repulsion. So we cannot say when the desires started, began, but we can say when it will end. We go on being rotated as though mounted on a wheel. Gita says, Yandra Rudhani Maya. We go on revolving round and round, taking a body, accumulating more results, going and finishing the life, death, and again rebirth, creating more actions. It goes on and on and on. So it's a cyclic process. Action comes. When we work out the action, we create impression and desires, then more action, more impressions, more desires, on and on, continuous process. But we can get out of this through the grace of God or Guru. When we gain introspection, when we think properly, when we do self-analysis, we find out that our real nature is Atman, consciousness. And when we realize that, then we get out of this cyclic process. We realize what happened. Why don't we realize now? Because that real nature is covered by ignorance. As Gita says, Ajnanena avratam jnanam, tena muhyanti jantavaha. Knowledge is covered by ignorance. So beings are deluded. We do not know when the ignorance started, but we know when it will end. When will it end? When we gain knowledge. When we bring in the light of wisdom, the light of consciousness, then the ignorance will just disappear. Now we come to the last sutra. Hedu phalashya alambanai sangrahitatvat esham abhave tadabhavaha. Hedu phala ashya avalambanai sangrahitatvat esham abhave tadabhavaha. Being held together by cause, effect, support, and objects. In the absence of these is its absence. Now, being held together, these impressions are held together by cause and effect, support, and objects. Cause and effect we have seen. Actions are the cause, impressions are the cause, actions are the effect. Then it goes on and on, action, cause and effect. Support, where does all remain? The mind stuff, the mind, in the subconscious level. So that's a support. And where do we get fresh suggestions from? From the external world. We get it through, bring it through our sense organs. So sense organs are the objects. Being held together by cause, effect, support, and objects. In the absence of these is its absence. When these are absent, then the ignorance is gone. If the accumulated impressions make a continuous stream, and without their destruction, there can be no hope of freedom, then how are we to get liberation? How are we to get kaivalya? This chapter is dealing with kaivalya pada, kaivalya. How to put an end to this continuous process of desire, fulfillment, going on and on. Patanjali is asking us, just remove the cause. So simple. If the cause is removed, the effect won't come. Now, suggestions come from external world, and that brings out the desire from within. External world doesn't bring that desire. Desire is within us. External world just gives a suggestion. And the desire is already within, and the desire comes out. So we should know how to handle the suggestions. We have to handle the suggestion without being affected by the suggestion. Say, you call me, you are a fool. Immediately I flare up. The suggestions came from outside. The desire, the reaction came from within. The response came from within. Why? Because I identify with those sound. It is not what is after all, what is that? If you analyze, it is just sound, a vibration in the air that hit my eardrum and then went to the vibration went to the brain, and I reacting angrily. The suggestion came outside. We should know how to handle it. Buddha says, don't accept it. There was an incident in the life of Buddha. One person came to Buddha and heard a lot of abuse. Buddha stood there very calmly. He listened to the whole thing. And then another person asked, how could you do that? How could you stand there without reacting? He said so much, he heard so much abuse at you. Then Buddha asked that person the question, if you give me something and I don't accept it, what happens? Then the person replied, yeah, that remains with me. Yeah, I didn't accept any of his abuse. So all the abuse remained with him. What we do is we immediately accept it. We identify with it. I identify myself with the word fool. Then I become a fool. If I react to that and get angry, I become a fool actually. If I don't accept it, then it's just a vibration is gone in the air. That's all. So we should know how to handle the suggestion that comes from external world. We should not identify with it. And we get attached to it, we identify with it, get attached to it, and then we create samskaras, impressions from that external suggestion. For another example, we can say, many people hear the same word or same sentence, but everybody don't react in the same way. People respond in different ways. Some and creating different impressions. Some may be creating good impressions. Some may be creating bad impressions. Some may be creating mixed impressions. Say, for example, the government is asking, take vaccination because that will protect you from COVID. Some people take it, they accept it, they create good impression, follow it. Some people say, object it, no, this is all fake news, this is hoax, this doesn't happen. So they create bad impression. Some people wait, no, I will wait for the other vaccine, not this for this one. They have got a mixed one. So the same message came from the government, but people's reactions are different. The impressions came from outside the same way, but we depending upon our mental makeup, we make different impressions and react differently. So we have to understand how we relate to external suggestion. And when we understand how we relate to external suggestion, we are actually removing the cause. And Patanjali says, when the cause is removed, the effect just disappears. We don't have any control over the external suggestion, external happening, but we can control how we respond to that, how we react to that. And for that, as I said earlier, we have to be alert and we need strong willpower. We have to say ourselves, no, I will not accept this insult. I'm not going to accept. Why should I? It's not, it is not me. Whatever that person has said has got nothing to do with me. I'm not going to accept. Then there'll be no bad impressions creating. But if we try to run away from them, we are not removing the cause, only postponing it, delaying it. So we have to face the situation. We should know how to deal with the situation. As Swamiji says, face the brute. We cannot run away. Running away is not the solution at all. Face it and deal it properly. Now, what are the causes of these impressions? According to Patanjali, the causes are pain-bearing obstructions, namely ignorance, egoism, attachment, aversion, and clinging to life. It's avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. Patanjali dealt with this in detail in the second chapter when he was discussing the yoga and its practices. And ignorance is the root, the first one, avidya. Ignorance is the root cause. And what is ignorance? Though we have dealt it earlier, now we are speaking about it. So just quickly we'll go through that. Avidya is, or ignorance is, taking the non-eternal, the impure, the painful, and the non-self as the eternal, the pure, the happy, and Atman. Taking the non-eternal for eternal, the impure for pure, the painful for happy, and the non-self as self. That is avidya, ignorance. Then comes, from the ignorance comes first is egoism, asmita. Egoism is identification of the seer with the instrument of seeing. The seer is the self, the Atman. But we identify that self with the instrument of seeing. And what is the instrument of seeing? The intellect, mind stuff, mind, and sense organs. Buddhi, chitta, manas, and indriya. They are the instruments of seeing. From the sense organs bringing, and the mind reason out, which is sorts them out, and buddhi react, look at it properly, and chitta is the storehouse. So these are all instruments of seeing, but we identify that ego in the seer, the self, with this instrument of seeing. Then comes raga, that is attachment. It dwells on pleasure. Only one, only pleasure. And of course, dvesha is opposite, dwells on pain. The last one is abhinivesha, the desire to clinging to life. This clinging to life we see in both wise people and ignorant people. It's for every living being, this clinging to life is there. Because this clinging happens because the mind, as we said earlier, the memories, there's a continuity memory. Whatever we had gone through, experience in the previous life, the memory is there. So the mind retains the impression of death experience from the previous lives. Many previous lives, they're there. So the desire to cling to life. But this clinging to life means clinging to this normal consciousness, day-to-day consciousness. And clinging to day-to-day consciousness, normal consciousness means not striving for higher consciousness, super consciousness. And only through super consciousness can we attain the knowledge of the self. So clinging to life is the greatest obstacle to self-realization. So these are the 5 causes. And ignorance is the root cause. And also there is another cause that we mentioned in the beginning of this today, the 3 types of karmas, the good action, the good karma, bad karma, and the mixed karma. They are also causing bondage. And so long as the results remains, the effects will come. The cause is there, result will come, effect will come. And what are the effects? These are the causes, the 5 causes we have mentioned, and that is ignorance, egoism, attachment, aversion, and clinging to life. They are the 5 causes. And also the 3 types of actions, good result, good karma, bad karma, and mixed karma. What are the results of this? Effects are rebirth, being born again and again, maybe different species, rebirth. Then a long life, short life. Also experiences of pleasure and pain. These are the effects. And ignorance is the root cause. Ignorance of what? Ignorance of our real nature. Ignorance that we are the self, we are the Atman. Ignorance of that is the result. That's the root cause of all this. And when the ignorance is removed, the cause is removed, effects will disappear naturally. When we bring in the light, darkness will disappear. Sri Ramakrishna says, suppose a room has been in darkness for 1,000 years. You bring in light or strike a match. It doesn't take 1,000 years, it doesn't take 1,000 seconds even. The moment you bring in the light, that darkness disappears. So the moment you bring in the light of wisdom, the lamp of wisdom, the darkness of ignorance just disappears, just go away. Till then, we go on and on through this cycle of birth and death as revolve, like as though mounted on a wheel. That's what the Gita says. Again, Sri Upanishad also says the same thing. This vast, I'm quoting from the Upanishad, this vast universe is a wheel. Upon it are all creatures that are subject to birth, death, and rebirth. Round and round it turns and never stops. There is no stopping. It is the wheel of Brahman. As long as the individual self thinks it is separate from Brahman, it revolves upon the wheel. But when, through the grace of Brahman, it realizes its identity with him, it revolves upon the wheel no more. It achieves immortality. As long as the individual self thinks it is separate from Brahman, when there is ignorance, as long as there is ignorance, it revolves upon the wheel. We are bound. We go on and on with birth, death, rebirth, action, impressions, desires, more action, more impressions, which will go on and on. But when through grace of Brahman, it realizes its identity with him, it revolves upon the wheel no more. That's finished. We get out of the revolving wheel. The others may continue, but that's particular soul, the Jivatman, the individual soul, gets out. It achieves immortality. Thank you. And we'll continue the next class further.
So we'll have some time for questions and answers. And just a few announcements before we launch into that. We had the weekly yoga class on Thursday from 10 a.m. We had the Friday night discussion. It'll be the spiritual evening this coming Friday night from 7:30 via Zoom, from 7 p.m. here in Vedanta Hall, if you'd like to join the silent meditation. And we're continuing our study of the science of happiness. And then next Sunday, we'll be celebrating Shivaratri here in Vedanta Hall. And of course, we will broadcast that via Zoom as well. If you're coming in person, you're welcome to bring some sweet or savory to share, to be handed out in packets afterwards. There'll be talks by Ami Trivedi and Gayatriprana. Now we'll have the question and answer session, but just give me a few moments. There's a bit of setting up to do for that. we have a microphone to pass around if you've got a question, just so those joining via Zoom or going to be watching later on YouTube can hear the questions clearly. But maybe I'll start. It's not really, well, it's a kind of a question and also maybe more an observation on the idea of impressions, because this talk today touched a lot on that, all the impressions we take in. And I'm wondering, for example, there's a possibility there's a war coming up in Europe, and then made me think about soldiers, professionally trained soldiers, and they go into a war situation, and also not just soldiers, but police, ambulance officers who have to come to car accidents. The amount of very terrible, challenging impressions they take in. And I'm just reflecting on with this, yogic insights, what a terrible load that is to deal with. And they're not even delving into yogic techniques to try to deal with that. So you wonder, of course, we do know many of them need help, and no wonder. And then I wonder about, it's interesting that the karma involved with that they have been attracted or for other reasons gone into that sort of field. And it means they're reaping some karma from previous lives. And then on the other hand, they can be doing immense good.
And also they may be paying off the debt to those people involved in those accidents. We don't know what, because we don't know what happened in the previous lives. We can't remember. But nothing is unconnected. It's all connected. There's a big network of impressions and connection. We are connected with the other individuals, and we are moving through different networks and channels. Wherever at present at a particular life, particular incarnation, we are exposed to, we are dealing with them. But it's a big load. Those people, even reading and seeing maybe the pictures on the television, we get upset. But what about the people who are actually in that, seeing it straight away, the first responders? They've got a big lot of impression, which is sometimes can be overwhelming.
Fine.
Gayatriprana, I just wanted to ask you, in this talk, you talk a lot about past lives and impressions, but we're making the assumption that we keep on being born again and again, whereas Christians generally have the idea that there's only the one birth, So how do you reconcile it? Because it would seem very odd for people, if you give this talk at a normal Catholic church, people would find it very confusing, because you're generally brought up with a belief that there's no such thing as a birth after a death.
Only one life. Say, you take the example of say 2 or 3 children brought up in the same family. The same family, siblings, all the environment, brought up in the same way, parents given the same care and everything, but they are growing up differently. They got they take up different profession. They do differently, completely different from other person in life. Say we see, say some people are child prodigies. Where do they get that? The age of 3, 4, 5 become expert in that. If it is only one life, always what about did the parents maybe have nothing to put of that in that field, interest in that field? Say musician, parents are not musicians or interested, no, or they may be just ordinary musician, but the child is a prodigy. an expert in playing that particular instrument at a young age. Where did it come from? Or why not the other siblings? That shows that's one of the reasons we can say it comes from our past life. Or why are we attracted to some people? Because of the past connection. If it is not, that past connection is not there, why should we feel attraction for that particular person and not for another person? And I have heard that Christianity earlier had the idea of reincarnation, but then the authorities decided to stop that and to abolish that idea. In the early days of Christianity, the idea was there of reincarnation, but later they abolished because the people thought, oh, why should I pray now? I can do it in my next life. As often we see the Hindus and Buddhists who have got the idea of reincarnation do that. Oh, well, in this life, let me enjoy. Next life, I will pray to God or try for enlightenment. Christians also had that. And then it seems that they went to the extreme of an indulgence and the church had to stop that.
Even Christ said, no, before Abraham, I was. He said that.
So
What applies for the thing, applies for the microcosm. So in a big context, he said, I was before Abraham. So in the same way, we jivas are also there before. So it involves. The theology wouldn't fit in.
Mataji, the question was, we say human form is one of the greatest of all the different. Is it just the human ego, or you can't get samadhi in the other forms of life? Or why is it just said that when you're born as a human, it's one of the greatest forms of life?
Human beings have got the reasoning power, and only human beings can strive for enlightenment, realization of the true nature. Other beings, they just go through the life and reap the results of that action, whatever brought them to that life. But they can't bring in good impressions to go higher on their evolutionary scale. That they say even gods have to be born on the earth as human beings if they want to attain enlightenment. That's why human birth is said to be the highest, because only human beings can strive for enlightenment, no other beings. The others, they just reap the results of that action, whatever brought that particular body.
The second question was, of all the kleshas which Patanjali discusses, it says avidya is, or the ignorance is, the root cause of the other kleshas. Is the understanding correct?
Yes.
And sometimes when you're in the path of enlightenment or something, you need to still have some ego, because you're part of that maya or panchabhuta, if I just have to put it in that way. So in the great sages within the path, they still have that determination or some ego with themselves that they have to achieve something. Is that the way which my understanding correct, or is there something that's different?
Sri Ramakrishna gives a good explanation for that. He says ego can be the ripe ego and unripe ego. The ripe ego has got the idea that if you are a devotee, I am a devotee of God, I am a child of God, or I am a, I am a servant of God. I am served, whatever happening, whatever action I have to do, I am serving God. God has ordained that I should do this. And whereas the unripe ego takes the credit for all. I am doing all these things. I have got power over all these people. All these things belongs to me. That's the unripe ego. That is really bad. That is the cause of bondage. Whereas the ripe ego, if you have the ripe ego, it will lead to freedom. And again, Sri Ramakrishna says, Shankaracharya was an over Brahman, but still he kept the ego of knowledge because he had to teach people. So even those who are highly enlightened, and the enlightened beings also keep the ego to serve the humanity. As we said earlier, they also do work, but it doesn't cause any bondage to them because they are doing only for the welfare of the world. Yoga Sangraha. Well, to help humanity, to help the world, help them others to go towards freedom, enlightenment, they perform action, they keep the little bit sense of ego. That's not a bondage for them.
So we're just saying ego without attachment, in other words.
Yes.
Can
Anybody else? Gayatriprana, there was this really interesting quote that was flashed up saying that when you sit for meditation, you have all these impressions come up of you. And if you sit there long enough and hard enough, you'll essentially get a snapshot of what you were in your previous birth. Swami Sarada Math, I think that's the...
it's up on the screen now.
Yeah. So is it really true that if you actually sit for meditation and watch what surfaces, that that is in fact true, that you'll get an understanding of your past? And then through the act of meditation, what you then do is you're trying to direct your mind towards something else, right? So it doesn't make sense, because if I sit there for meditation and just watch what comes up, that's not really meditation, is it? You're just building an impression of the past.
No, when you sit there for meditation, what they say, you let the mind wander. You're trying to control the mind. We can't trying to concentrate the mind on a particular idea or form of God or anything. You're trying to concentrate. The mind is wandering. So how to control the mind? How to concentrate the mind? There are two ways, they say. Try to bring again and again forcibly, or try to let the mind wander, but keep watch. The mind wanders, and where does it go? Go through all these impressions, what we had, we experienced, what happened yesterday, what happened day before yesterday, the previous month, goes on through the completely haphazard way. No reason or rhyme in the thoughts that come up in the mind. But we just keep watching. After some time, the mind will settle down. But the quote says, after years of practice, over the years, as the mind is becoming keener and keener, more and more deeper impressions will come up. First, what happened yesterday, what somebody said last week, all that is there. Then earlier days, not in a particular order, I don't say, but things happen. And maybe after some time, after years of practice, or what happened in the previous life, suddenly it comes up. We may not even understand that is something that happened in our previous life, but it can happen. But our aim is not that keep thinking about that. It is just to observe the mind. Observe the mind, where does it go? Keep watch on the mind, and then after some time, the mind will stop wandering and settle on your object of meditation. But in that wandering, when you, over the years, sometimes the things that happened in the previous lives can come up.
So essentially, you're just watching where it is, and then you redirect it to where you want it to go.
Yes. If your aim is to settle on one particular object or idea, and the mind doesn't want to sit there, it's running around, so you just keep on watching. That example Sri Ramakrishna says is, the thief is going around at night, prowling, trying to look for a house to break in. But a policeman, the policeman knows that this is a thief. So he is following. And the thief realizes the policeman is following. So after some time, guy tried to shake off the policeman, but the policeman is not leaving the thief, going behind the thief wherever he goes. So after going round and round through many streets, at last he decided, no, today hopeless, I'll go home. Our mind is like that. We keep on watching. Where is the mind going? Where does the mind go? At last the mind, hopeless. I can't shake it. Part of the mind watching the part of the mind. Only one mind we have got, but we divide it into two. One part is wandering, going all over the world. And the other part is watching where is it going. And then at last we'll get tired and come and settle down on our object of meditation.
Mother, as you said that we try to get the liberation from this birth and death. Same way, what about the animal world? They are also evolving. So is the, as we say, they are all mostly acting on the instinct. Do they evaluate and go to the human birth at all, or no, not at all?
Yeah, it happens over a long time. It takes a long time. In the natural course of evolution, it takes many, I don't know how many, long time, many years and many birth, but they evolve into, they come to human stage.
That's how we have, isn't it? We have
Yeah.
built all those
Yes.
buildings, all those houses we have lived in.
We from what's that, plants, animals, and human stage happens. But if we get the help of a great soul, by chance we get the company, we are able to get the holy association, then that evolution will come faster. Say, suppose the plant is growing in an ashrama, in a hermitage. That is in a good situation, good environment. That soul, enclosed in that plant body will go forward fast. We can say the animals which are in the hermitages, they get a fast forward their evolution. Whether cows or cats or whatever you can say, dogs.
Because in one of the Indian devotional song, it was told 84 lakhs, that is 8.4 billion birth and death. So from the insect to the human being takes.
From the amoeba we have evolved, yes. It takes a long time.
Does Patanjali speak of Jati Smrita? Does he speak about remembrance of the previous incarnations? Does he say, because Swamiji mentions about it, I just cannot get it. Is there any sutra?
It could be in the previous second chapter. When he speaks about the
Only then you get the Pravrajika, that the supreme renunciation comes when the aspirant has a panoramic view of the whole of his existence. Then he gets disgusted with no more mansions. I'm not going to build any mansions. So, somewhere I don't remember.
Doesn't really talk about, it talks sort of a thing saying Sampradnyata Samadhi was Asampradnyata Samadhi. So that is what probably the Asampradnyata Samadhi.
no, that's different. Asampradnya Samadhi is beatless Samadhi, seedless Samadhi.
Seedless Samadhi
Yeah.
was-
But what she's asking about is that the memory of all the different births that we have gone through. Memory is continuous. That's what he is saying in this one here. There's the continuity in memory. So whatever lives we have gone through, the continuity is there, memory is there. Only thing is that at present, we don't remember all of them. In this life, only those desires and those memories which are compatible with this body, in these surroundings, only they come up in the mind. But the rest are all in the subconscious level.
But also in the answer Asampradnyata Samadhi, which says is the last stage where
Yes.
your memory gets wiped out. where all your previous births of this thing gets wiped out. That's where you have asamprajñāta samadhi, which is
Contentless consciousness.
yeah, completely, yeah. So that is sort of related.
Yeah.
When you have the first seed part of samadhi, you still can go through all of your memory and have a understanding of being all the previous births, which is asamprajñāta. Sorry, sampradñāta. And then you step into the asamprajñāta, which is like when you leave that seed and you've completely given up the memory. Is where this life forms goes away. That's where it's called as asamprajñāta.
Yes. There's
end.
no more rebirths.
No more rebirths or no more memory or something like that.
To get that supreme renunciation, only then the seeds can be roasted with the knowledge of the self.
Yeah, that's what- So I think so that's where
Till then,
is your question of
that memory has to come.
transition of asamprajñāta sorry, sampradñāta to asamprajñāta.
Yeah, because he said that in the meditation, sometimes that doesn't matter. It's okay. In the meditation, he said you get the ideas of you get the remembrance of past actions. This is past memories,
Past lives.
past lives, whatever it is. But if it's all broken, so it comes and goes out. Supposing through the purification, the concentration, like Swamiji says, you can literally you can shake the whole subconscious mind. All the content of the subconscious mind can come up. So when it comes up, then you get the complete how many lives you have gone through, what sort of everything has gone there. Then you get a real disgust. Discussed with the manifestations when the birth, then you get the right renunciation. Only then you completely the vasana goes off. That is what that's the burning of vasanas. The complete the desire to rebuild another body goes off. Then the realization is at the hand. So that's what it. One small memory won't help. The whole lot has to come.
What if you like what you see?
Yes, if you like what you're seeing, then you go on reaping the results and go on revolving in the wheel.
I'm just reflecting on, I mean, plants and animals have their own karma, don't they? So, for example, you know, say cats and dogs, very popular pets. Now you look at the wide variety of situations that they can find themselves in. So there's some automatic sort of karma going on there, isn't it? They get the best of worlds, they get the worst of worlds. They
have their karma, but then they can't bring in new karma which can push them forward. They just reap the results. But to evolve along the spiritual path doesn't happen.
One of our devotees was telling her daughter has a cat, and the daughter is not a bit hot-headed person, very strong. So she's herself, doesn't mix up with people, doesn't allow your parents to come and cook and all that. No, don't do all those things. She has a cat, and the lady was telling her cat is also like her only. Doesn't mix. Usually pets, you love them and think of no. This one, if anyone comes, the cat goes inside. Doesn't want to mix with people. So the cat is also see a law of karma. The affinity of karma is brought. The mistress is like that. The cat is also like that. So it's going, and that means to say that's working out.
Attack on personality.
And personality. So it's being influenced. If the person was a bit devotional, loving, mixing, the cat also would have overcome its limitations and come out. The poor cat is caught up. Amazing the workings of the nature.
all right, any more questions? So thanks for joining us today in person or via Zoom, and this has all been recorded. It'll go up on our YouTube channel soon.